So I'm making these French collars, or cuffs, sorry, and eventually I will do removable collars as well to go with them. And the idea is you can put them over top of your shirts and they look sort of rather nice and crisp. I haven't starched these yet, but I'm about to top stitch them on my Necchi BU Nova. So I'm hoping this will feed perfectly. If not, I'm going to my Davis vertical feed. So off we go. I've adjusted this before, so I'm hoping it will feed perfectly. It seems okay at the moment, but we'll find out. Yeah, it seems okay. Just find sometimes with the edge stitching, a lot of machines, they just don't grab well enough. And because you're sewing through a lot of thick layers at the edge, get very uneven stitches. So what I've done is I have an open end. You can see I've pressed this perfectly inside, and just we'll do top stitching and that will seal it shut. Let's take a look at the quality of the stitching. Actually, it's feeding perfectly. Stitches are pretty good. Might just turn up the top tension a bit. Now, if you ever watch the Margaret Islander videos, what she says to do is to do 2 stitches on the corner so you don't get a 90-degree turn, and that does tend to look a little smarter than a very sharp turn. Yeah, I think we're doing okay here. So the adjustment I made yesterday, I've had to make 2 adjustments on this machine. The feed dogs weren't rising high enough, so I just adjusted the simple screw underneath to make sure that it would feed properly. And then the adjustments for the actual foot pressure weren't right, so it was slipping. So it's getting very irregular stitches, which is unusual on a class 15 machine. Just in the design it would be unusual, so I thought, I can't believe it's anything mechanical underneath. And sure enough, I was right. It was a 2-fold mechanism adjustment. And then a couple of stitches on there. And then we'll go to 0. Stitch lock, stitch in place. So I'm quite pleased with that. I think that fed very well. Let's see if we can zoom in on these stitches and show you. Yeah, they're good. So you can see they're perfectly even and smooth. Didn't do so well here. A wibbly wobbly there. I might just unpick those and stitch that edge because that's not very good, but I'll do that in a second. Just have to do the rest of these. In fact, I might do that now while I remember where that fault is. I don't like faults in my sewing, so if you see it's not good enough for my taste, so I shall endeavor to repair that. But there's the bottom, there's the top. Not really much of a difference. Slight difference, but you'd have to really know your sewing machines to know which is the difference between the top and the bottom. So I'm thrilled. So I shall show you the buttonhole shortly when I put them on, but ultimately that's how they will hook over top of the a shirt cuff. So we're going to prepare the machine for buttonholing with this Grist buttonholer, which actually does the zigzagging back and forth, so the machine needs to be set. For straight stitch, I've got it on 0. Drop the feed dogs with the green knob in there, and what I'll do is I'll change, I don't have to strictly, but I'll change the zigzag foot for a free motion or plate for free motion plate, just because it reduces the amount of friction on the side-to-side movement. Okay, so I'll just put that out of the way. Now we need to attach this eye shank button holder. So this is the same kind of mechanism that you would use on a 301 or a 201, where it's built for a straight stitch machine. Even though this is a zigzag machine, I don't have a high shank buttonhole, or I could do 4-step, but these work so well there's really no reason not to use this type for what I'm doing. So just tighten up the screw, or the thumb screw here. Okay. And what's important is make sure your threads are underneath. That makes a better result. So I've hooked it. I'll just pull them through to the back. Okay, snip so they're down there now. Okay, so I have the markings done. As you can see, the blue. But first of all, what I want to do is make sure I know where the machine is set before I start this. This is always really important. The attachment doesn't always sit in the middle, and it's important to know exactly where you're going to be stitching. So it's always a good idea to keep a little practice fabric. This will also give you a chance to check your tension. So what I'm going to do is I'll just draw some lines. Let's see if you can zoom in on that. Okay, just draw some lines to practice on, approximately 5/8. Well, my helps if I'm actually in the camera. So what you can see is I have, if I can actually see them there, they're there. 3 lines. So what I'll do is I'll practice. So turning this. So when I'm at the top of the cycle, if I just drop this and put the needle in, then all of a sudden it moves. So you have to make sure that you know if you're on the left or the right side when you're doing this. So it looks like it's in the correct place now, but it's possible to need to adjust that. So we'll just go through this, see how this is doing. Sometimes I find it's quite useful to just rest your finger with a bit of weight on this to make sure that it doesn't slip. Although in this case, because I've now adjusted the foot pressure on this machine, it may not be as necessary as it was the first time I did it, where it was skidding all over the place. Okay, we're coming up to the top. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, we're at the top of the buttonhole. So let's practice. See how we do on this one. Okay. So that one I was slightly on the right of it. That's always a challenge, is to know exactly where the center line is. Top of the button, so let's practice number 3. Oop, release. Okay. So that one's gone crooked. So what's going on here? Aha! That was something that I found with this. It's really easy for the buttonhole are to pivot. I always found that as well, but this one is particularly easy to pivot, so you have to watch to make sure it doesn't go tilt. I've tightened that screw a lot, but there's no way I can get it tighter. It's just prone to doing that. Okay, so let's make sure we're at the top. Okay, so what you can see is I'm at the top, but when you look at the hole, it's way off on the wrong side. So we will, let's make sure this works now. Looks, let's see what happens when yeah, so that's looking like it's on the right side. I'm just going to let the machine do its without my finger in the way, because that might be why it's going a bit wonky. Certainly looks like I've got the pressure adjusted perfectly. It's not misbehaving. So I will zoom in a second so you can see what's going on here with this particular attachment. This is definitely not an attachment I would feel super confident in using on a pair of jeans because of the weight. It would be possible, but it would be risky. I'd probably use my Kenmore rather than that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll just snip the threads. And then go around to the next buttonhole, to the right side. Let me move the camera so you can get in close to this. Let's move that down. Okay, 1 second. Right, so now you're up top. So what I'll show you is what I was doing before. When you spin this around, what you can see is it seems to be way over on the right hand side. So what you'll find is with this type of attachment, once you move the needle, all of a sudden that you need to find out where the zigzag is. So the zigzag is now on the right hand side and just crossing over. So I could theoretically have moved it over more, but in this case it will line up, so I don't need to worry too much. But sometimes it'll just go zing over to the wrong side. So you can see it's sewing kind of over to the right at the moment. So the way to adjust that is if you raise and lower the needle on the zigzag stroke, it will reset the contraption into a different place. But you have to do that before you start sewing. You're sort of essentially committed. Okay, come around to the top. Perfect. So we'll release that. Perfect. So it does perfect buttonholes, as you can expect. Okay, so there are two perfect buttonholes. They're lined up in the middle. Close enough anyway. Okay. Let's try this one. So, here's the example. So you can see if I load that, then we've got this. So what we want to do is make sure that we know where this is going to start sewing. Okay, so we know it's going to sew there. If I drop this now, spin this. You see this time it's on the right hand side. Let me just release that up and uncrumple that. Okay, a little bit back. And let's see there we go, perfect. So I usually go around, as you can see, twice to make sure that it's a really good buttonhole. Okay, and snip that. threads. Now I get to do this one. Do one more for fun. And here we go. So where is this? Okay, so that sort of straightened it back up. Make sure that's like that. Drop that down, and where do we go? So, yeah, perfect. So that's done.